Annie sat on the bed, staring at Sam, who stood in front of her. With a teasing smile, she unbuttoned his shirt, tossing it carelessly onto the floor. She kissed his stomach and chest, and Sam couldn't help but close his eyes, letting out a soft moan. Annie leaned back in her chair with a satisfied grin. Sam, gripping her shoulders for support, eventually collapsed onto the bed, breathless from their intimate encounter. During a brief pause, Annie quickly stripped off her clothes and joined him. Holding his hair, she pulled Sam toward her and kissed him deeply. "Enough of all the niceties," she murmured, eyes closed. "I need you now." Sam didn't hesitate. In a few minutes, they both lay on the bed, trying to catch their breath. After a while, they showered in the guest bathroom, dressed, and prepared to leave. But before they went, Annie pulled Sam toward her for one last kiss. "It was great, but we can't do this again," she said. Sam smirked, replying, "You said that last week, but you know you can't resist." Annie looked uneasy. She expressed concerns about Jason's suspicious behavior and how Sam's wife had tried to call him the week before. This made her nervous, despite their perfect intimacy. "I don't want to ruin my marriage because of this," she said. Sam sighed and suggested taking a break until everything calmed down. He didn't want to lose his wife either. Meanwhile, in his office, Jason slammed his laptop against the wall, anger surging through him. "That bastard Sam is going to pay. If I ever get to him, he's going to suffer." But before he could calm himself, his assistant Sally knocked on the door and peeked inside. "Are you all right, sir?" she asked softly. Jason took a deep breath, reassured her, and said, "I think I'll head to the gym. Could you also arrange for a new laptop? I've had enough of this one." Sally nodded. "Of course, Mr. Winters," she said dutifully. With that, Jason grabbed his coat and left the office. "Let me officially introduce myself. I'm Jason Winters. The woman in this story is my wife, whom I've been married to for almost 25 years. Our story began back in college, where we met and fell in love. After 2 years of dating, we married right after graduation. Over the years, we raised 3 wonderful children, and I always believed we had a strong marriage. But recent events have made me question everything. It all started a few days ago when Katie Mason, Sam's wife, came to see me. She had concerns about her husband's affair with my wife. I was completely unaware of what was happening under my own roof. 3 days earlier, my secretary informed me that Mrs. Mason had urgently requested to meet. She mentioned her husband's affair with my wife. Nervous but curious, I agreed to meet her. Despite having only met her once at a corporate event, I couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting was important. When I saw her in the hall, I introduced myself. "Please, come into my office so we can talk," I said, offering my hand. "Thank you, but please call me Katie," she replied. I nodded and led her into my office, closing the door behind us. "Please, have a seat," I gestured to the sofa, and as she sat down, I couldn't help but notice how beautiful Katie was. Her shoulder-length black hair caught my eye, and although some might say she was a bit overweight, I found that her curves were in all the right places. As I sat across from her, I saw that her hands were trembling as she tried to collect her thoughts. "Jason, I don't know how to say this, but I need to be honest. I believe my husband is having an affair with your wife. I was hoping you could help me gather evidence," she said. She wasn't just beautiful. She was clearly in pain. Though I didn't know her husband well, I trusted my wife, Annie, completely. I never imagined she would betray me or our children. But at that moment, I understood that the only way to resolve this situation was to listen to Katie and calm her fears. "I understand your doubts," I admitted, "but it's hard to believe. Show me what you have, and let's see where this leads." Katie took a few deep breaths to calm herself before she spoke again. Last Thursday, I was in town on business and decided to stop by Sam's office to invite him to lunch. To my surprise, he wasn't there. After asking around, I learned that he had left for lunch at around 11 a.m. This confused me because I usually pack his lunch in the morning, she said, her voice trembling. I tried calling him to make plans, but he didn't pick up. By now, tears welled up in her eyes, and she paused, struggling to continue. Sensing her distress, I handed her a box of tissues and gently asked, "How did Annie get involved in all of this?" Katie wiped her eyes before explaining. When I got home and found that Sam hadn't answered my calls, I started to worry. This behavior wasn't like him. I remembered the tracking app one had installed on our phones 6 months ago, after our eldest son started driving. I checked the app and saw that Sam was at an unfamiliar address, about 15 minutes away from his office. After investigating, I found out the address was connected to you. This was from the Christmas party we attended. I still couldn't believe it, but the situation was undeniably suspicious. I decided I would talk to Annie about it later. I leaned forward. "So, Katie, did you ask him why he was at my house in the middle of the day?" Katie shook her head. "No, but let me tell you more. I discovered that the app tracks location history for up to 90 days. I checked Sam's history and saw that he had been visiting your house every Thursday for the past 3 weeks. He left his office at 11 a.m., arrived at your house around 11:15, and stayed until about 1 p.m., then returned to his office. That's when I started to suspect something wasn't right. When I asked him why he hadn't answered my calls, he claimed he was with a client. The lies were clear to me, and I could feel my anger building, but I kept it together and didn't confront him immediately. I thought for a moment before asking, "What did you do next?" Katie took a deep breath. I decided to verify everything. I checked my home security system to confirm what I suspected. Sure enough, I saw that Annie had deactivated the system at 11:15 a.m. and reactivated it at 1 p.m. I went back and checked the history for the last few Thursdays. It all lined up, except for 3 weeks ago. Tears were now streaming down Katie's face, and I paced around the room, my mind racing. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit, but I needed more proof. Without hesitation, I grabbed my phone and dialed a number. "Hi Bill, this is Jason. I know it's last minute, but could you come to my office? I have an urgent matter that requires your expertise." Bill assured me he'd be there in 10 minutes. Turning to Katie, I explained, "Bill is a trusted security contractor. He's helped with all my real estate projects, including the security systems in our homes. I need to gather photographic evidence before I confront either of them." Bill arrived promptly. After I briefed him on the situation, he asked, "Are you sure you want to proceed, Jason? Once you see the photos, you won't be able to forget them." Katie nodded in agreement, and I turned to Bill. "Let's do this. Let's see what we find." Bill informed us that our current security system wouldn't be enough. The cameras inside the house only work when the system is armed, so they're not much use in this case. I suggest we install small high-definition cameras in select rooms, ones that can record both video and audio clearly. Without hesitation, I agreed to proceed. "Do it." Bill assured us he would get everything installed the next day. "I'll set up 3 cameras, in the master bedroom, the guest bedroom, and the living room. They'll be equipped with motion sensors and automatic lighting adjustments to ensure clear footage, day or night. In addition, Bill set up cameras in my attic that transmitted signals to a receiver. This would allow me to monitor the footage through an app on my phone. The footage would also be saved in the cloud for future reference." The next few days were a blur as we anxiously waited for any sign of what might unfold. To distract myself, I threw myself into work and spent my evenings in my home office, avoiding prolonged conversations with Annie. Katie seemed to handle the situation better, staying busy with her teenage children and their activities. My own family life, in contrast, was much more strained. Our children had all gone off to college, the same place where Annie and I had met. Our daughter, Savannah, had graduated, while our twin boys, Mark and Jeff, were sophomores. It was a bit challenging having them away, but seeing all of them attend our alma mater brought us joy. Most Tuesday and Wednesday nights, I found myself alone in my office, reflecting on how to approach a delicate issue. Finally, Thursday arrived. Annie kissed me goodbye in the morning, just like usual, seemingly unaffected by the recent events. As I reflected on our 25 years together, I replayed everything in my mind, trying to find any unusual behavior over the past 3 weeks. But nothing stood out, except for one thing: her newfound assertiveness in the bedroom. On weekends, she had usually followed my lead, but lately, she'd taken a more dominant role. At first, I welcomed the change, but now, knowing the reason behind it, my feelings had shifted. And that brings us to today. After reviewing the footage I had captured earlier, I transferred it to my laptop, sent a copy to Katie Mason, and settled down in my office to reflect on my next steps. I knew I had to avoid doing anything illegal, so I decided to call my lawyer, Roger, on my way to the gym. After explaining the situation, he assured me he would prepare the divorce documents, citing adultery as the reason. In our state, divorces typically take about a year, but cases involving adultery qualify for an expedited process that could be completed in just 3 months. Determined to move things along, I reached out to my longtime friend, Ted Jackson, a regional vice president at the bank where both Annie and Sam Mason worked. Ted had been a financial backer for most of my projects, and I knew he owed me a favor. I asked him to look into a situation involving inappropriate relationships between 2 employees during working hours, assuring him I would provide the evidence. Ted promised to take care of everything, and that left me feeling confident. 2 hours later, after a strenuous workout and a quick shower, I knew I could delay no longer. It was time to confront Annie. As I drove home, I listened to a playlist on my phone, using techniques I had learned in college to prepare for important football games. These methods always helped me clear my mind and stay focused on the task ahead. I parked in the garage, walked into the house, and found Annie in the kitchen, cooking dinner as usual. "Hi, honey. How was your day?" she asked, smiling over her shoulder at me. I muttered a response as I dropped my briefcase and went to the bar for a drink. "Oh dear, I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to help?" she asked, concern in her voice. "In general, you can," I replied. "Take a break. Come with me to the office for a minute. I need you to see something." I gestured for her to join me on the couch. When she sat beside me, her hand gently rubbing my thigh, she asked, "Okay, so what do you want to show me?" I took out my phone, opened the video app, turned up the volume, and pressed play. Then I handed her the phone. A moment later, she stared at the screen, her face draining of color. She saw herself with Sam. "Oh no," she muttered, panic flashing across her face. "No, honey. No, I can explain. It's not what you think," she pleaded. But I couldn't contain myself any longer. My patience had run dry. "What the hell do you want to explain?" I exploded. "You don't have to explain anything. The video is crystal clear. It's painfully obvious that my wife, my partner for almost 3 decades, has been lying and betraying me. You've chosen some insignificant person over the man who loved you, who loved our children. Is there anything else you want to add?" When I regained control of myself, I saw that Annie was crying, her face buried in her hands. "Please, Jason," she begged. "I know I made a terrible mistake, but please don't insult me like that. I am so sorry. Is there any way I can make it up to you? I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. Let's stick to the facts. I'm not name-calling. I'm just stating the truth. You've been lying since you started your affair. You've been unfaithful, and the evidence is right here. So, why shouldn't I call you names? I paused, my heart racing. As for regret, it seems like the only thing you regret is getting caught. You certainly didn't look remorseful when you were with someone else. Annie curled into a fetal position, crying uncontrollably. I forced myself to stay calm. Before I leave, I need you to understand your options. Roger is preparing the divorce papers. You'll receive them next week, and I want you to take them to a lawyer for review. I think my offer is fair. Half of the house, half of the retirement accounts, and $5,000 a month for a year. You have 2 weeks to sign before I go to court and show the video to the public, your children and parents included. The decision is yours. I'm leaving now, so please don't contact me. No texts, no emails. If you see me in the city, go the other way. I don't even want to see you. Is that clear? With that, I stood up, gathered my clothes, and headed to my car. I'll have someone come pick up the rest of my things. You can stay here until the divorce is finalized. I can't stand being in this house after what you did. I paused, looking back at the place I had called home for 20 years. Then, I slammed the door behind me, leaving her in tears on the couch. I immediately drove to the apartment that my secretary, Sally, had prepared for me. In recent years, I had started including 4 or 5 furnished apartments in each of my company's new projects, intended for short-term rentals by managers. Many foreign companies had operations in the area, and their managers often needed a place to stay for extended periods. These luxury apartments were highly sought after and rented for 4 times the amount of regular units. I never imagined I'd be living in one of them. After entering the apartment, I dropped my bags in the hallway and collapsed into a chair in the living room, feeling empty. My phone buzzed, and I checked it, annoyed to see 12 missed calls. 8 from Annie, 2 from Savannah, and 1 from each of my sons. What part of "don't call me" did Annie not understand? I muttered to myself, ignoring all of Annie's calls before finally answering Savannah's. "Daddy, are you okay?" Savannah asked, her concern evident. "Hey, baby, I'm fine. What's going on?" I replied. "Mom called about an hour ago looking for you. She was really upset. When I asked her what was wrong, she said you two had a fight and that you left. She couldn't get a hold of you." "This isn't like you," Savannah said, still worried. After thinking for a moment, I realized that the boys had probably called for the same reason. "I can't guarantee nothing happened," I admitted. "The truth is, your mom and I didn't have a fight. She decided I wasn't meeting her standards and started seeing another man, sneaking him into the house for secret lunches. It's not really a fight, but rather a decision to divorce her and never see her again. She thinks she can justify everything if I just listen to her, but I refuse to listen to her lies." When I heard Savannah's tears on the other end of the line, I paused, taking a deep breath to regain control of my emotions. "This situation is between your mom and me. I don't want it to affect your relationship with her," I said. After talking to Savannah, I informed Mark and Jeff about what was going on. Like me, they were angry with their mother, but I believed they would reconcile with her in time, though it would take a while and she would have to endure their anger in the meantime. In the weeks that followed, things remained relatively calm. I focused on my work, spent time at the gym, and kept busy so I didn't dwell on the chaos in my personal life. Outside of work, I only spoke with the kids and Katie Mason. I regularly checked in with the boys about school and sports, and Savannah updated me on her life. My daughter mentioned that Annie wasn't doing well, So Katie and I decided to discuss her situation during our weekly Monday lunch meetings. Despite the risky nature of our conversations, we both needed someone we could trust to understand our situations. While I was determined to proceed with the divorce, Katie hesitated, as it could complicate her relationship with her children and her husband, Sam. Katie often leaned on me for advice in making decisions, and I had become her sounding board. On the last day before the deadline, Roger informed me that Annie had signed the divorce papers and sent them back to his office. All that remained was to wait 3 months for the court to finalize the agreement. Annie asked if I would meet with her before going to court. Though I resisted, Roger insisted it would make things easier in court if I agreed to meet with her. He mentioned that most judges would expect a spouse to at least try to have an honest conversation before ending a 25-year marriage. Eventually, I agreed to meet with Annie, but only when I felt ready. Over the next month, I returned to my usual routine, the one I had before meeting Annie. I worked hard, played sports, and socialized frequently. Due to business commitments, I traveled out of town for a few nights each week, often spending evenings having dinner, drinks, and chatting with clients. Though there was the occasional harmless flirting with female regulars, it never went beyond that. I have to admit, after Annie's infidelity shattered our marriage, I started drinking more than usual. What began as innocent flirting during my trips quickly escalated into something more serious and regrettable. I found myself in relationships with several women, regardless of their circumstances. I was angry at Annie for what she'd done and resentful of Sam for interfering in my life. Yet, I found myself doing the same thing to others, trying desperately to numb the pain. But no matter what I tried, nothing helped. During this chaotic time, I found solace in weekly lunches with Katie Mason. We even went on a few spontaneous outings together. While we didn't label our time as dates, it was a welcome change from the emptiness of one-night stands. Although our relationship wasn't physical, I found myself lingering too long after our goodnight kisses. One Monday evening, Katie and I went out to dinner. She seemed unusually quiet, pushing her food around on her plate. It was clear something was bothering her. After a long pause, she finally looked at me. "Jason," she began, "we've been spending time together lately. Although we haven't called it anything, it feels like dating. I sense some tension between us, especially when we say goodbye. It's like we both want something more than just a kiss, but neither of us is taking the next step." She hesitated, gathering her thoughts, then spoke about her uncertainty over rekindling things with Sam, her high school sweetheart. Some days she wanted to try again, while others she was ready to move on. Despite her indecision, she admitted she still had needs as a woman and suggested that I likely had similar ones. I nodded in understanding. She then asked, "Would you be willing to help me meet those needs?" She explained that while this might seem unconventional, she could never imagine picking up a stranger for something like this. "Since you're my friend and I trust you, I'm open to considering it. Please don't worry about offending me. If you decline, I'll understand, but I think this could be good for both of us." Her question caught me off guard. I took a moment to think it over before responding. "I'm flattered that you trust me enough to ask," I said. "My hesitation doesn't mean I'm not interested. You've always been beautiful to me, from the moment you walked into my office. My initial instinct is to say yes, but I need some time to consider the implications. Can I call you tomorrow with my decision?" She appreciated my honesty. "Of course," she replied. "I understand it's a big request, and I'll respect whatever you decide. I just didn't know who else to turn to." After our meal, we chatted a little longer before it was time to leave. I assured her I'd give her an answer first thing in the morning. Deep down, I knew I wanted to say yes. I had been fantasizing about being with her for weeks, but I needed to convince myself I could handle the consequences. I also realized that if she chose to stay with Sam, I wouldn't be able to see her anymore, not even for lunch. That night, I decided I would call her in the morning. When I did, I introduced myself as Jason and told her that I had agreed to her request, but with one condition. There was a brief pause before she asked, "What's the condition?" I explained, "If we meet to be intimate, I want it to be more than just a one-night stand. I need a deeper connection with you to feel comfortable. So here's my idea. Let's take a weekend trip together. If at some point during the trip we feel like it, we can be intimate. We could leave on Friday and come back on Monday." She responded, "Wow, I thought you'd refuse. I'll tell Sam I need some time to clear my head and ask him to look after the boys for a few days. What time should we leave?" "Let's meet at noon on Friday," I replied. "I'll text you the details tomorrow." The next day at work, I arranged everything. By Friday, I was standing in front of the terminal, scanning the crowd. When I saw Katie approaching, she looked stunning in a stylish outfit. Skinny jeans, boots, and a tight sweater that highlighted her curves. "You look incredible," I said, grinning. "I'll be the envy of all the men at this airport." As soon as we boarded, I complimented her again. She hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, "You're going to miss the plane, mister." "Where are we going?" she asked, teasing. I just smiled and handed her the ticket. To her surprise, it was for New York. "I've always wanted to go there," she exclaimed. "Well, Mrs. Mason, now you will," I said. "I'm pleased to let you know that we have reservations at some amazing restaurants for the next 3 nights, along with tickets to the Broadway play Hamilton tomorrow night," I informed her. With her bag in hand, we checked into the hotel, both excited for the adventure ahead. After a smooth flight, we arrived at LaGuardia Airport and took a taxi to our favorite hotel, located right across from Central Park, our go-to choice. After checking in around 5 p.m., we settled into a room with a beautiful view of the park. Once we unpacked and got ready for dinner, we headed out to the restaurant where we had a 7 p.m. reservation. Luckily, the restaurant was just a 10-minute walk from the hotel, giving us plenty of time to enjoy the stroll. As I was tying my tie and admiring the city view, she suddenly approached, turned me around, and wrapped me in a warm hug. "Well, Mr. Nurse," she said with a smile, "I asked you for a small favor, but you've exceeded all my expectations. This is unbelievable." I smiled, pulling her closer. "Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me you've just earned yourself the girlfriend experience for the weekend." "That's exactly what I was hoping for, Mrs. Mason," I replied softly, bending down to kiss her gently. After a moment, I pulled away. "Maybe we should head to dinner before we get too carried away," I joked. "Otherwise, I'll have to throw you on the bed and eat you for dinner." Hand in hand, we walked to the restaurant, enjoying the sights and sounds of the city. The food was just as amazing as I remembered. After dessert and more wine than we probably should have had, we made our way back to the hotel. When we entered the room, I could feel the nervous energy between us. Taking her hands in mine, I looked into her eyes and reassured her, "I'll never force you into anything you don't want. Whether you want to explore the city as tourists or fulfill your original request, I just want you to relax and enjoy the weekend. No pressure, just pure pleasure." I led her to the window and wrapped my arm around her waist as we took in the stunning cityscape. "This weekend is all about you. I want you to experience new sensations and simply relax while I take care of everything. Let's enjoy the food, sights, entertainment, and art of this city together. And if you're interested in having a casual relationship with a friend, I'd be happy to make that happen." Tears welled up in her eyes as she expressed her desire to go through with it, admitting she needed it more than I could understand. She confided that she was nervous, as she had only been with one man before and felt inadequate after her relationship ended. I reassured her gently, We all feel insecure in different ways, but our past actions don't define our worth. They should have communicated better with us instead of seeking solutions outside the relationship. If anyone is inadequate, it's them. Enough about them. Let's focus on enjoying the present. I kissed her softly on the neck, right behind her ear. She closed her eyes, leaning into me, and tilted her head, inviting me to continue. Now, let's see the story from Katie's point of view. It was an amazing feeling, I thought, closing my eyes and leaning back into his arms. With his left hand, he gently brushed my hair aside, causing goosebumps to run down my spine. He continued to shower soft kisses across my neck and the top of my dress. His hands slid down my sides, lightly grazing my chest before resting on my hips. I pulled him closer, pressing my lips to his, exploring his mouth gently with my tongue, pulling him toward me with all my strength. Then, I pulled away, teasing, "Take off those annoying clothes while I freshen up." I closed the door behind me and stared at my reflection in the mirror, wondering if I should follow through with my plan. After thinking it through, I confirmed my decision. I had no idea what kind of surprise awaited me when I left the bathroom. As I stepped out, Jason was standing in front of the wardrobe, but when he heard the door open, he quickly turned toward me. I gasped in surprise. There, in front of me, stood an incredibly handsome man, radiating confidence. He approached, pulling me toward him and kissing me passionately. When he finally pulled away, he looked into my eyes and said, "I think someone is overdressed. Let's change that." Without thinking, I turned around, and he quickly unzipped my dress, letting it fall to the floor. Jason sat back on the bed, his eyes full of desire. I stood in front of him, wearing only my bra and panties, feeling a little self-conscious about my weight, but Jason didn't seem to mind. He looked at me with admiration. "You're so beautiful, Katie," he said, pulling me closer to the bed. Once we were seated, he wrapped his arms around me. I buried my face in his neck, kissing and caressing his skin. Then, kneeling down, I moved to his chest, showering him with soft kisses, teasing him as I moved down his body. The tension was almost unbearable, but fortunately, he was gentle. When we were done, we both rolled onto our backs, trying to catch our breath. Exhausted, I turned onto my side, and the last thing I felt before drifting off to sleep was Jason's arm wrapped around me, his hand resting against me. It was a soothing, comforting feeling. I must have slept soundly because when I woke up, Jason was kissing my neck, his hand caressing my leg. I got up to take a shower, leaving him in bed. As I finished, Jason surprised me by joining me in the shower. From the smile on his face, I could tell he hadn't come just to wash up. "Don't you ever get tired?" I asked. "Not when there's a beautiful woman like you around," he replied. Soon, he had me leaning over the shower bench, making love to me. It didn't take long to reach the peak. Afterward, we washed each other thoroughly and got dressed for breakfast. The rest of the day was spent exploring the city, enjoying a delicious dinner, and watching the incredible Hamilton show. When we finally returned to the room after midnight, we were still buzzing from the evening's experiences. Slowly, we undressed each other and collapsed into bed, making love 3 more times before falling asleep, completely satisfied and utterly exhausted. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of the shower running, realizing Jason had just entered the room. The phone rang, and I hesitated before answering, curious about who it could be. "Hello." I froze, unsure whether to answer, but then decided to proceed. A voice on the other end asked for Jason Nurs. "Jason is in the shower right now," I said, trying to sound composed. "But I can take a message." "Actually, could you call him? It's his daughter calling about an emergency. I need to speak with him immediately." "Sure. "Let me get him," I replied, feeling a surge of anxiety about the situation. I headed to the bathroom. "Jason, your daughter's calling. She says there's an emergency in your family. She needs to talk to you right away." His face darkened when he learned that his daughter had discovered us together. It seemed she didn't know we were here. I reassured him, promising to support him through whatever came next. Now, let's look at things from Jason's point of view. I quickly wrapped a towel around my waist, feeling awkward about being naked in a hotel room with someone else. I sat on the bed, grabbed the phone, and looked over at Katie. Taking a deep breath, I answered, "Hello, Savannah?" "Hi, Daddy," came the response. "It's Mark. He had an accident." "Oh no, how is he?" I asked, my heart sinking. "He's going to be fine, but he's in serious condition. He has a concussion, broken ribs, and a leg that will need surgery tomorrow." I reassured her, promising to arrange a flight as soon as possible. "Send me the hospital and room number, and I'll let you know the details of my flight." "Okay, Dad." "Thanks, Daddy. And how's Mom doing?" "We're doing fine, but we miss you. We really need you here." "I'll be there soon. Please take care and let me know about the flight details." "By the way, Dad, who was the woman answering the phone?" My stomach dropped. It's a long story, Savannah. I think it's better we talk in person. I'll explain everything when I see you. Just take care. Okay? I quickly brought Katie up to speed, explaining that I needed to find a flight to get back home. Despite my offer to stay and enjoy the city for one more day, she insisted on flying back with me. Fortunately, I managed to secure 2 seats on a direct flight that would get us home by 3 p.m. We hurriedly finished packing and headed to the airport. On the plane, Katie placed her hand on my knee and rested her head on my shoulder. "I feel so sorry for Mark," she said. "He'll be fine," I reassured her. "He's a tough guy." "I'm sorry about our weekend," she continued. "I had a great time, though. I hope you got what you needed from it." Katie insisted that I shouldn't worry about her, joking, "I just asked you to scratch my itch, and you certainly did." Looking back, I realized maybe I should have warned Katie that my doctor friend had given me a sample of Cialis before our trip, but I assured her that I didn't need it to do the job. I was determined to make a positive impression, and it worked. However, on Friday evening, I had a bit of an issue when my arousal didn't subside, which made me worry about the warnings I'd heard about seeking medical help for prolonged arousal. Fortunately, the issue resolved itself when we boarded the flight home. We slept most of the way, and I woke up just as the wheels touched the ground. Katie and I quickly packed up our things and said our goodbyes. I promised to keep her updated on Mark's situation, and we agreed to talk later. The week after we returned, both Katie and I needed time to reflect on everything that had happened in New York and decide on what to do next. After retrieving my car, I went straight to the hospital to check on Mark. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I was nervous about seeing Annie for the first time in 2 months. I didn't know what to say or how to act. I also realized that I needed to face Savannah and explain why her father was in a New York hotel room with a woman she didn't know anything about. But then, an epiphany struck me. I had to put all the drama aside for now and focus on my son, who needed me. After that, I would have to face Annie and deal with the unresolved issues and emotions that had built up between us. When I first caught Annie with Sam, I vented my anger by shouting at her. I decided to cut off all communication with her, seeking to rebuild my self-esteem by indulging in one-night stands while traveling. Despite trying to move on and start something with Katie, I still couldn't find peace. It was Savannah who finally forced me to confront everything, putting an end to my relationship with Annie and allowing me to truly move forward. I summoned every bit of courage I had before opening Mark's hospital room door. As I approached, I felt a wave of unease, How could I feel nervous about seeing my own family? Come on, Jason, just relax and be yourself, I thought. With one final deep breath, I opened the door. Savannah, I exclaimed as she rushed to me, wrapping me in a tight hug. I'm so glad you're here. I returned the hug, feeling grateful for her warmth. As I looked around the room, I noticed my son Jeff sitting in one of the chairs. I smiled at him. Well, don't you want to hug the old man? I teased. Hi, Dad, he replied. When I approached, he stood up and hugged me too. It looks like Mark will be out of action for a while. Guess now you can invite your old man to a golf game. Huh? He joked. I grinned. Yeah, I won't have to take Mark with me. He might get jealous. I glanced at Mark's bed, where he seemed to be sleeping. Annie was sitting next to him, just as I expected. She looked nervous, avoiding eye contact with me. If we were going to get through the next few days, I knew I had to ease the tension. I walked over to the bed, sitting beside her. Well, Annie, how's our boy? It's not too bad right now, she replied. But he really scared us yesterday. We sat together, reminiscing about how the kids had grown up and recalling the wild antics from their younger years. The tension slowly dissipated, and soon everyone was more at ease. By 7 p.m., I suggested everyone head home. I told Savannah and Jeff to go back to school, promising to keep them updated on Mark's surgery. I also sent Annie home, noticing her fatigue. I didn't feel ready to be alone with her yet. The next day, Mark's surgery was a success. A few days later, he was discharged and allowed to return home. Annie and I helped him settle into his room, though being back in the house brought back painful memories. I promised myself I wouldn't give up, at least not for Mark's sake. After making sure Mark was comfortable, I said my goodbyes and promised to visit again the next day. As I was leaving, Annie stopped me. You remember our agreement to discuss the past before the divorce is finalized, right? She reminded me. With the court date fast approaching, I reluctantly admitted she was right. Okay, I guess I've put it off long enough, I sighed. I'll come by Saturday morning and listen to everything you need to say. How about 8 a.m.? Sounds good, Annie replied. See you then. The next few days were spent working and preparing for our conversation. On Friday night, Katie and I met for dinner. We talked about the past weekend and made sure we were both okay with everything that had happened. Thankfully, we were both on the same page. Neither of us was looking for a serious relationship at the moment, but we recognized that casual dating and intimate encounters were still possible. We returned to my apartment afterward, and the night ended with us making passionate love for hours, like a couple of college students, before Katie had to leave to tend to the kids. On Saturday, I arrived at my former home at 8 a.m. Annie greeted me at the door with a big breakfast already prepared. After Mark and I finished eating, he went to his room to finish his lessons, and Annie and I headed to the patio for some privacy. She seemed nervous, taking a few moments to gather her thoughts before speaking. First of all, I want to apologize, she began. I'm sorry about what happened with Sam. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for all the lies. I've come to realize that I'm to blame for everything that happened. On the other hand, you didn't deserve any of this. I feel the need to explain my actions, Annie began, her voice trembling. Although I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to justify what I did. She paused, watching my reaction. I stayed silent, giving her space to speak. It was her moment to voice her feelings, but I wasn't ready to forgive her easily. Despite this, her apology held some weight. I was hesitant to fully accept it. A few weeks ago, I had already forgiven her, but that forgiveness was more for my own well-being than anything else. Anger had consumed me to such an extent that I often felt physically sick. It wasn't until Katie convinced me to truly consider forgiving Annie that I began to reflect on it. Katie helped me understand that forgiveness wasn't about excusing her actions, but rather about freeing myself from the burden of resentment. When Katie saw I was still hesitating, she urged me to keep an open mind. Annie continued, "Over the past few months, I've been seeing a psychologist to help me understand why I acted the way I did. Much of what I'm sharing with you now comes from our conversations." As expected, the conversation turned to assigning blame, whether it was mine, my parents, or the kids. Despite my doubts, I listened patiently for an hour as she explained her thoughts. Though I felt her perspective was flawed, I let her speak as it seemed to offer her some clarity, at least in her own mind. "The story begins when the boys left for college," she said. "Their absence left me feeling isolated and depressed. For 2 decades, I devoted myself to raising them, but now that they've grown up and become independent, I was left with feelings of loneliness. I've always struggled with depression to some extent, but this felt different. Meanwhile, you were so absorbed in your career, I didn't know how to cope." The therapist had advised her that when children leave the nest, parents should focus on other aspects of self-realization to regain a sense of purpose. While I found satisfaction in my work, she felt that work was just a way to pass time, leaving her feeling bored and alone. That's when Sam suggested they meet for lunch dates. She admitted it was inappropriate, but his attentiveness filled the void she was feeling. Over time, their conversations turned personal, complaints about me and about Katie. One Wednesday, after a client event, Sam walked her to her car, and after a few drinks, he unexpectedly kissed her. She kissed him back but stopped when guilt overwhelmed her. From then on, their communication followed the same pattern: meeting for lunch, exchanging kisses, and eventually having passionate moments in Sam's car. Despite her claims that their relationship was purely physical with no emotional attachment, it was clear to me that she was seeking validation, something she wasn't getting at home. The physical aspect wasn't as important to her as the thrill of breaking the rules. Yet, despite her feelings for me and desire to restore our marriage, she had let herself slip into an affair. When she finished, I paused to gather my thoughts before asking 2 questions. Did you cheat on me for the first time? And did you continue seeing Sam after I left? I didn't need to hear her response. I already knew the answers. I just wanted to test her honesty. Jason, please believe me, it was a one-time thing, she begged. Surprisingly, I decided to believe her. In fact, I hired a private investigator to look into her and Sam's story. Katie and I provided access to our phones and bank accounts, and I even allowed the investigator to inspect Annie's laptop. A few weeks before Annie and Sam visited our house for the first time, the investigator found nothing suspicious on any of Annie's devices or in our accounts. With no solid evidence, he concluded that Annie had no reason to lie, and I chose to trust her. But then, things took a turn. I knew the truth. "Here's the thing, Annie," I said, my voice steady. "I know this is a complete lie. Sam was at our house twice, on consecutive Friday evenings after I left. He spent the whole night here both times." A look of panic flashed across her face. "Do you remember how Bill Stevenson came to remove the cameras after I talked to you?" I asked. She nodded. "Did it ever occur to you that I might have sent him back to fix them while you were at work? Did you really think I was naive enough to believe that, after everything, you and Sam wouldn't turn to each other for comfort?" Tears streamed down her face as she spoke, her voice breaking. "I'm really sorry. Please let me explain. I was scared and lonely. You and Katie left us, and we just needed someone to talk to." "Cameras don't lie," I said firmly. "I'm like you. I can listen to the truth, but I will not tolerate lies. 2 mistakes might not seem like a big deal, but dishonesty for me is unforgivable. Even at work, I can forgive mistakes, but lying is where I draw the line. I had heard everything I needed to hear. I had kept my promise to give her the opportunity to speak, but it was clear she wasn't ready for full honesty. Therefore, I recommend that we finalize our divorce in the nearest court and move on. I continued, my voice steady. I've gathered enough evidence to create an adult website, so I suggest you don't delay this process. Goodbye, Annie. Following my advice, Annie agreed to proceed with the divorce in 2 weeks. The following week, we both focused on Savannah's college graduation. We were both thrilled for her, and as a gift, we arranged a 2-week cruise around Europe. Our plan was for her to join my team full-time afterward, but things took an unexpected turn when a private investigator uncovered more unsettling information about Sam. Despite Annie's belief that she was unique, she turned out to be Sam's 4th lover in as many years. The investigator also uncovered 2 other women Sam had been involved with. This revelation was the tipping point for Katie, and she decided to finally divorce him. I couldn't resist sending Annie a copy of the investigator's report along with a handwritten note. I advise you to read this report, I wrote. Turns out, you may not be as unique as you thought. Also, you should get tested for sexually transmitted diseases. His connections with 3 other women suggest that he's not too picky. Despite this revelation, Katie and I maintained our relationship over the following months. I had genuine feelings for her, and I believed they were mutual. After the divorce, we decided not to rush into anything, giving ourselves time to heal from the past. She had many qualities I admired, and I treasured our time together. Not only was she pleasant company, but she was also a delight in the bedroom. It was the perfect combination of companionship and intimacy. But thinking about everything she brought into my life, I realized I had one unfinished business: getting back at Sam without landing behind bars. I came up with a brilliant plan and decided to share it with Katie. I was hesitant to involve her in something that might hurt Sam, but she grinned when I explained the idea. My only regret, she said, is that I won't be able to see his face when it happens. A private detective had been investigating Sam's activities and discovered that every Friday night, he visited a particular bar and then returned to his apartment. About 2 weeks after Sam and Katie's divorce was finalized, I took one of my project managers, Bob, with me to the bar. Bob was about the same height as me but weighed considerably more. When we entered the bar, we spotted Sam exactly where the detective had described, sitting alone in a booth by the window. I approached him from behind, and Bob made his way to the other side. When we reached his booth, we both squeezed in, me on one side of Sam and Bob on the other. Well, old friend, I greeted him. I felt a surge of satisfaction as his expression shifted from confusion to panic. His eyes widened and his face paled when he realized who I was. I don't want any problems, he stammered. I apologize for what happened in the past. I called the waitress over and said, my friend would like to buy us a drink. Could you bring us 2 of your best bourbons and make them doubles? Because when you're sleeping with a man's wife, it's only fair to offer him a strong drink. The least you can do is buy him a drink. Sam sat down, looking uneasy. You see, Sam, I began, my voice steady. You can't betray a person like that and not face the consequences. You should consider yourself lucky that I didn't run into you sooner. When I first saw this video, my initial impulse was to rip that pathetic face of yours off and shove it down your throat until you choked. But lucky for you, I don't want to go to jail. I leaned in closer, my eyes locking onto his. So let me tell you how things are going to go from now on. You will never have any contact with Annie again. No relationships, no communication, nothing. Do you understand me? Yes, sir, he replied, looking down, defeated. Don't worry about me. I'll go the opposite direction if I see her walking down the street. Good. Now that we've established that, there's one more thing, I said, the tone of my voice sharpening. You will never, under any circumstances, be late or fail to pay Katie her alimony and child support. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Quite clearly, he muttered, his voice trembling. I raised my glass and took a long sip, savoring the burn of the alcohol. Then, I rummaged through the bag I had placed next to me. As I pulled out a small box wrapped in black paper, I handed it to Sam. Come on, open it, I said with a hint of hesitation. Sam unwrapped the package, revealing a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label. His confusion was evident as he asked, I'm not sure I understand. What is this for? I reminded him of my earlier comment about buying booze for a man who had slept with his wife. Sam nodded slowly, finally understanding. After spending some time with your ex-wife in the last few months, I continued, I felt it was only fair to make amends to you. Here's a full bottle. Enjoy it. Katie and I had been making sure our ex-spouse's betrayals didn't go unnoticed. We posted videos and photos on various websites where they were shown together. It was our way of turning the tables on them. As a result, Annie and Sam both lost their jobs when their affair was discovered. They were fired for having it during work hours. These videos would only make it harder for them to find employment. Their careers were effectively over. A year later, Katie and I exchanged vows and became husband and wife. I was happier than I had ever been. Sam, on the other hand, disappeared into an unknown direction. Annie ended up in a social shelter, mopping floors at one of the local restaurants. I hope she finally found some sort of happiness. After all, she claimed to be lonely after the children left for college. But now, Annie has a very busy life, cleaning floors in a shelter. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.